There we go. Okay. Now let's get back into it. There. So now the mic's working and overlays are working. And I wonder if this actually works. Let's see. This one does not. Yeah, it does. There you go. All right. So now we're up and running. All right. So today, it's been a while since I've done this. I've been pretty busy. Go figure. But I want to talk about N8N and some of the cool stuff and not so cool stuff that I've figured out. First, I'm going to show you localhost. Getting set up on localhost, super easy. You can literally run a Docker command and it'll just work. Easy for technical people. If you don't know what Docker is, that's a whole different thing, and you have to install Docker Desktop. And then if you're on a Windows machine, you got to make sure you have your SSH keys set up. Anyway, actually, some of that's true. So I'm going to show you I'm going to take you through a little about N8N and what it can do and how amazing it can be. And then I'm going to, well, that's why they host it. I'm going to show you some ways to actually reduce your costs so you actually don't have to pay for everything. But I'm going to show you all the different processes that it took to actually get there, because everybody starts on the cloud and then they're like, oh, I don't want to pay that, and that's too expensive, and how do I manage that, and I want to add blah, blah, blah. And everything out of the box works great until you want to do that one thing that's not out of the box. And when you want to do that one thing, then you're like, oh, I wish I could ... And then all of those different things make it so much difficult, more difficult than it needs to be. But if you hosted it yourself and got it all up and running, and I'm a big Google fan, so I set it up on GCP. But let me just get into it and show you what N8N is, and we can go from there. Really popular on GitHub, and you'll see. So here's N8N. If you're familiar with tools like Zapier, then you're definitely familiar with N8N. Or Make, I think, is another one that's a competitor. What's really nice about this is there's a community version. Yay, GitHub. And they actually have images, and you can download images, and all of that works. And it's pretty amazing out of the box. And I'll just show you this example. When somebody creates a form, you send it to an AI agent, checks if it's a manager, and adds them to the channel automatically. This is a great example of IT operations. So if somebody adds a new user, you can actually have your onboarding process through N8N. And let's get into SecOps, because I love security. When a new issue is created, it extracts the IPs, it does a scan. You can actually run this through VirusTotal, and it'll actually get the report from that, and based off of the URL scan. So it'll actually do both of those and then merge that report and actually post the results. So you can actually automate your security tickets that way. And it goes on and on. Here's your DevOps of how you can actually deploy a Gemini chat model and reference that through the AI agent, specify what models you want it to do. And then obviously sales is the big one. And marketing, obviously. And that's the one I was going to give you a demo of. But you can get reviews, apply some simple coding to it, and then have a customer insights agent. So this agent is basically an AI agent that will actually do work. And those are any of the models that you want to use. You could use Claude, you could use Gemini, you can use ChatGPT, like the OpenAI models. It doesn't matter. N8N supports all of it. It's pretty amazing in regards to that. Now, let's talk about getting it set up. So here's my example for local. So as you can see, I'm on localhost, and I wonder if I actually, hold on, I'm going to see if where's my scripts? And scripts. This one, open, zoom source, left monitor, zoom factor, close. I think that's it. And then I need to add a hotkey to it. Settings, hotkeys. Boom, boom, boom. Need a mouse. Apply. Okay, let's see if that worked. It looks like it did not. Does that work? Nope. So something's wrong with that script. Left monitor, 2, follow speed, auto follow, zoom speed, zoom factor, 2.5, refresh. Failed to call script update. Yeah, I'll figure that out later. But I know I can do this. Okay, so I'm on localhost. It didn't work. Welcome to live. And I have a weekly trigger, right, based off of a time. It will fetch my feed, select the content, send it off to Claude, and generate content, parse that out, put it on a Google Sheet, and append to Google. You can see this right here and this right here do not have credentials, and that is one of the things. But let me go into, I'm going to do a new workflow. Is this not running anymore? Oh, I don't know if it's still running. Cancel. Let's save this. Great. And we will do a new workflow. Great. So this is actually what it'll look like when you're creating a new workflow. And you can literally click on here. You can do it on an app event, on a schedule, webhook call. These are all the different things you can do. We'll do a trigger manually. Actually, you know what? On a schedule. So it'll run. You can set this up so it'll run every day at midnight, right? Great. One of the things here, you can click all the way up here to get back to Canvas, or you can literally just hit escape. And the escape key will take you out of that. And then I click here, and then I want to actually right click and add a node. And the node I want to add at this point would be, let's see, I don't know. We'll do get the feed. RSS feed trigger. That's fine. Fetch test event. Oh, great. So this is a great example. I just did a test event and now I have this. So I don't even need this one because it's going to happen on the RSS trigger. So I'm going to use an RSS feed for this. And then I want to, let's just say Google Sheet. Google Sheets, append row and sheet. And I don't have any credentials, and that's why it was giving me that error. So if I click on create new credential, this is the first roadblock you're going to have to get into. This actually doesn't even work anymore. You're going to have to go into Google Cloud Console, create an OAuth screen, get your client ID, get your client secret, set up your OAuth redirect URL, and then it'll just work. But you have to do all of that other stuff. And that's the stuff that everyone leaves out. And they're like, oh, it's just easy. I'm not going to do it today. I'm going to put together a real tutorial for this, but I'm just letting you know that's going to be a pain for a lot of people who aren't technical. It's not like, oh, I just want to log in with my account. That's not how that works. You have to set up API keys and things like that. And append wrote a sheet, and then I can say, give a summary. I don't know. We'll just do some code. I don't know. You can do whatever you want. I don't really care. The thing I actually do want to show you, and I'm going to open this in a new tab, is let's do console. Nope, wrong account. Account. This Cloud Run. Yeah. So let me come here, and I want to show you, let's see, I want to show you what? The truth is I want to show you this. Let's see if I can get to, oh, hold on. There we go. Yeah, this will work. Okay. So if you come to Google Auth platform, it'll say it's not set up originally, and then you'll have to go in and go into clients. Well, it'll actually say set it up. But when you create a client, and this is the part for the OAuth part. So you'll click create client, you'll create a web application, you'll give it a name, that's fine. But then this redirect URI, that is what you get from, oops, this. So if I double click this, it'll give me the auth redirect URL. And this is actually what it would be if I had this tunnel set up. I've actually shut down that tunnel. But it'll give you the URL that you're supposed to enter. And yeah, close, I don't care. And then you'll enter that here. You do not need to enter anything here. And then you click on create. Then you have to specify your audience, whether it's internal or external. Then you have to make sure it has the right scopes or whatever scopes you want. Then you have to make sure that you have the right APIs, enable APIs and services that are enabled. So you would want to enable Sheets. You got to enable that one. And then the other one you're going to need to enable is Drive, which I think is actually really interesting because if you have access to Sheets, you should have access to Drive, but they're two separate APIs, and it will allow you to create a sheet, but it won't allow you to actually save it anywhere because you don't have access to Drive. I don't know why that is. I mean, that should be a default, but whatever. And then after you do all of that, then you actually have access to things. But here's the real kicker on here. So I've like Compute Engine. Everyone knows about Compute Engine who's in DevOps. You can set up a Compute Engine. You can actually install a Docker container. You can actually do it through Kubernetes. But then you're going to be paying for that instance, even though you're not using it. And sure, you can turn it on and off and things like that, but it's not really worth it at all. So one of the things I want to talk to you about, and let's see if I have it up. Don't. Let me do this. Hold on. All right, let's go back here. So not that one, this one. All right, so in here, How many ways can you install N8N? Hold on a minute. How many ways can you install N8N on GCP? Well, I have a list, so I'm going to actually read the list because it was a lot of what I went through. One, I set it up locally, which you already saw, the local host and all of that worked great. The second, oh, that's interesting. Creator. The second was I deployed it to a compute engine because sure, just spin up a server and install the Docker container and you're good to go. True, and the default of N8N, the community edition, uses SQLite. And if you restart that server, all of your workflows will disappear. If that server crashes, all your workflows disappear. All that work you did, gone. So, not really good. Cloud Run. Let's talk about Cloud Run. Cloud Run is actually really good. I like it. You can have it based off of usage. The actual cost for it is minimal, and and you can install a container directly on it. However, that container will use SQLite by default because of N8N. What does that mean? It will not persist. Your data will go away, and you will need persistent data if you want to keep your workflows. You're going to want to keep your workflows. So then I set up Cloud Run with Cloud SQL. Not as easy as it sounds. So if I come over here and let's go into, actually, hold on. I'm going to do this. Yeah, this. Where is here, Cloud SQL. Yeah, instance, enterprise, connection name, blah, blah, storage use. Yep. Okay. Do I have backups? No backups. So, yeah, I'm just going to. So what I did is I came here and I went into Cloud SQL, which took me here. And that's where you can create instances and things like that. And that's the next step. I want to make sure. Yeah, that's the next step that you can play with. So that actually did work, but connecting to it was a real hassle because you have to have, whether you're using the public IP or using a TCP connection, and then what about your VPN and how are you going to connect to it through a VPN, all of that. Then it gets even worse is after you have that up and running, you have to make sure that the user you're logging into N8N has write access to that database because otherwise you can't save your credentials. Figured that out. And then I was able to even set up a custom domain on Cloud Run, and that actually worked. It takes a while for propagation just because DNS propagation sometimes is really fast, sometimes isn't. However, doing all of that is not trivial, and it was such a pain, and I figured it all out and got it up and running, and then I was like, wow, that's why you pay for the $20 a month to not go through the pain that I went through. But now I have my own N8N server and I can actually do anything I want with it. So this, like I said, this is going to be a quick one. I'm not going to take you through all the steps I went through, but here is my recommendation. 1, while you're setting up, use Cloud Run. No question. 2, use Cloud SQL for persistent data. I used a Postgres database. It worked great. Once I got that connection set up and all the ports configured correctly. So, pro tip, N8N uses 5678 as the default port, and make sure that port is mapped to a public facing IP, generally 80 or 8080, and it will actually, Cloud Run actually does even handle your SSL, which is really important for some of the integrations. A great example is Slack. Slack requires SSL auth. So if you try and do this on localhost, it will not work, which is why I set up that Cloudflare tunnel, because I just wanted to see it work. But back to the recommendations. Cloud Run, Cloud SQL for persistent storage, And that should be about it. You're going to deploy the Docker container as it is, and you should be good to go. If you want to set up a custom DNS, you can use that. You can do that pretty easily with Cloud. With gCloud, GCP is great for that. It says it's in beta. It works flawlessly. The only problem I had is it took a little bit for propagation. That was it. Trying to think of anything else that I wanted to call out. No. Don't set up a compute engine. Don't even try. It's going to cost you way too much money. It's not worth it. Set up Cloud Run, set up your workflows, and you can actually, here's what's great about localhost, and this is exactly what I did. I set up this locally, and I'll actually do it right here. So I'm going to delete all of this. So I set up all of this locally, and then I downloaded it, and it gave me a JSON file. And then I wanted to do import from file. So when I do import from file, and I click on the one I did for my social media auto generation, boom, and it loads all of that. But keep in mind, because this is loaded, it's not going to have the credentials. That's by design. So then you can double click on this, and you can actually give it a credential. So for Claude, create new credential, I need an API key. And then you have to figure out how to get a Claude API key. It's actually really easy. I'm not going to do that now because then I'll expose my own API key. But that's one of the credentials you're going to have to do. And the other one is obviously the Google Sheet one. And I will have to create a new credential. And now you know how to do it. So you have to go to Google's console and create an OAuth screen, create a web app, and add this as your redirect URL, get the client ID and the client secret, and you'll be good to go. And then you'll have both of those connected successfully. Slack is a very similar process for OAuth. They recommend using OAuth over service accounts. I highly recommend that also, mainly because it's easier to maintain. Because then if a service account has a problem for authentication, anyway, it gives a consent screen and you actually know what it's giving permissions to, and it will actually enable the right things like that. Anyway, I didn't plan on making this too long. I just wanted to cover some of the basic N8N stuff. I'm going to do a more in-depth one when I have all of this organized, and I'm not going to be, oh, that's interesting. N8N tutorial with full-on deployment to something real, rather than, hey, I'm running this on localhost and none of my friends can see it. It's because you're on localhost. Yeah. It's fascinating how much people leverage AI and don't understand what it's generating. I think it's really important to at least understand what it's generating and then be able to fix it. I was playing with Claude today, and Claude was having so many problems trying to configure GCP. Luckily, I know gCloud. I wanted to see what Claude could do, and it did not do well on configuring that. And eventually, I got to a point where I could just spin up a Terraform script, Terraform apply, and I was done. And it was really painful today going through all of that, but very rewarding when I got there. That's all I had today. I just had to get this out. This was mainly for Sean. Shout out. Thanks for the call and inspiration, as always. We will be doing this again shortly, and pay attention to like social media, because it's going to be coming out a little bit faster and a little bit more structured and organized. Go figure. If you can't automate it, right? I automate everything. I guess that's it. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll send you this link and get this to you too. I'll talk to you later.